You were not born insecure and you were not born without confidence. You were taught to be insecure and you were taught not to be confident. The good thing about this is you can change that. You have to unlearn everything you've learned about confidence, because look at your results. Is that actually working? Is that making you confident? If you've clicked on this video, I'm guessing not. For years and years and years, I did the same thing and it never brought me confidence until I learned this. It might be hard to unlearn the things you've learned, but what is the alternative? I would say from experience, living insecure is the hardest thing you'll ever do, and learning to be confident is the best thing you'll ever do for yourself and for everyone else around you. Hi guys, it's Lucy and I'm going to teach you how I became so self-confident within myself from someone who their whole life has been so insecure and unconfident. I did everything I could on the outside. I mean, I even changed my appearance and it never ever brought me confidence until I learned this, and I'm going to teach you exactly how. The first thing to know, and probably the most important, is that you cannot hate yourself into being more confident. This is crucial. You cannot hate yourself into being a more confident person. It doesn't work. I tried it, I spoke to myself so bad. I starved myself. I got loads of filler. I literally did everything out of hate, expecting it to bring me confidence. It never did, and it never will to anyone. If you're wondering why you're going on extreme diets, you're forcing yourself in the gym, doing all these things, and it's not bringing you confidence, that is why. It's because it's coming from a place of hate and not a place of love. And confidence doesn't work like that. The first step in this is to realize who you are. Once you actually realize who you are, confidence becomes so much easier. If I was to ask you who you are, you would probably tell me your name and maybe what you do as a job. That is not who you are. But we have been wired to think it is. It's really not. You are not what your environment has told you are either. You are not past events that have happened that you might have felt embarrassed in, so now you label yourself as shy. Or somebody might have called you a name, so now you label yourself as ugly and insecure and things like that. That is not who you are. That is what your environment has told you to be. Now, the key to life is you cannot let your environment affect you. More importantly, you cannot let your environment tell you who you are. The best way I can give you advice on this is to study yourself. Really find out about yourself. Write down all the beliefs you have about yourself. Write them down and be so honest with yourself. Like, these are just for you. You don't have to share these with anyone, but be so honest. Find out what you actually like to do, not what you think you should like. This might take a while, but the more you write, the more you will know. This is the literal key starting point to confidence. You have to study yourself. You have to know what you're working with here, because I guarantee you your environment has told you who you should be and what you should like and who you are, so you have just naturally believed this. But once you undig this, you'll realize there's so much more to you than you realize. There's so much more. There is so much more within you. The thing that really helped me with this, I was so insecure and shy pretty much my whole life. When I started to really study myself, I was like, where has this come from? One of mine was when I was in primary school, an event happened. I threw up in school and everyone thought I was disgusting in that moment. Like, everyone was saying, ew, no one wanted to be near me. I felt so embarrassed and so ashamed. Little did I know that belief was actually going to shape my life. Now, the thing is, in the caveman times, we had to go along with the pack. We were actually safer when we fitted in with the pack because we needed our pack to survive, so we had to fit in. Our brains haven't quite caught up that that's not the case now. This is why if you're wanting to do something out of the ordinary, or you're wanting to put yourself out there, you initially get so much fear and so much like, I really don't want to do that, and you have a fear of rejection. That is because you're wired to this fear. However, you need to train your brain that the danger's not there anymore. The danger that you're fearing is not a bear going to kill you, it's actually a fear of rejection. I'm saying this because in that moment in primary school when I had this experience, I was now wired to believe that I'm not part of the pack. I've just been rejected. Like, this is a big deal. Over time this grew and my brain started to see more evidence of why I'm insecure, and I had a really strong belief that now I'm disgusting. And the best way to unravel these beliefs, go back to that event as you now. You have to literally imagine that event. So I imagined going into that classroom as me now, an adult, going in and evaluating the situation. Was I disgusting? Was I actually being rejected? Like, what was actually happening? No, I wasn't being rejected. I was surrounded by like 6-year-old kids who obviously are going to find sick disgusting. See, when you're that age, you don't think about that, and it is really crucial. These beliefs stay with you. The more you have these beliefs, the more your brain picks up proof. This is why it's so important that you choose your beliefs, because your brain every day is going to find more evidence to back these beliefs. Once you've studied yourself and you've started to realize what beliefs you have about yourself and where they've come from, it's now time to higher your standards. You need to now pick who you want to be, who you actually are, what you actually like, and exactly who you really want to be. Not what society wants you to be, not what other people want you to be, what you yourself truly want to be. And once you've got this, you now need to hire your standards and absolutely stick to it. You need to think, what would this version of me think about themselves? How would they speak to themselves? How would they let other people speak to them? How would they let other people treat them? You need to raise these standards and absolutely stick to them. They don't come down. No matter what environment you go into, no matter what situation you're in, these standards stay, because this is who you are and this is how much you value yourself, and your value does not go down. Value isn't based off what somebody says to you or what somebody else thinks of you or who else is in the room. Your value stays the absolute same. You see, a lot of people, their self-worth and their value is on other people. So as soon as somebody says something about them, or if somebody doesn't find them attractive, or if somebody doesn't think they can do a certain thing, their value and self-worth now goes down. The problem with this is you are now somebody's toy. When they want to respect you and they want to say something nice, your self-worth goes up. But when they don't, it goes down. So you're just stringing along. However, if you know your value, you know your self-worth, and it absolutely stays, you don't have to live like this anymore, because you're like this. These things that people might say, or the things that are not into your standards, they will just bounce off you. But you have to really train yourself to do this. You have to be selfish, and you know it's the least most selfish thing you'll ever do. When I started to work on myself and be a better person myself, I now am a better person to the world. You know, it's not just about being a better person for you. You show up better. Doing the things you really want to do and the things you really enjoy, you are just naturally so much better. You radiate more and you can give more to the world because you're being authentic. And the thing is, and the highest vibration you can ever be at is being authentic. That is the highest vibration there is. When you've hired your standard, you know what sort of person you want to be, how they would speak to themselves, how they would respect themselves. You have to think about, would somebody who really respects themselves starve themselves? Would they put them on a really strict diet? Would they force them in the gym? Would they be putting all this stress on themselves? No. And it is about slowing that down. It's about doing things that make you happy, that make you feel good, but are also good for you. Now, would it be good for me to go and eat 25 chocolate bars? No, so I wouldn't do it. But if I wanted chocolate, would I restrict myself? No. And one of the most important things of all is when you've got these standards, you have to keep these promises to yourself every single day. You now have a vision of who you want to be, and you have to stick to this vision every single day and live in it now. Nothing in your environment that would bring you this. Every single thing happens within. Everything in your environment that you're chasing a feeling, but you give yourself the feelings. People are chasing this dream job and they'll say, I'll be happy when I get that. You won't ever be happy if that's the case, because happiness is a feeling, and that feeling comes from you. If you constantly live like that and say, I will only be happy when, you won't ever be fully fulfilled. The only thing you have is the present. It's so important to have visions and have goals for yourself, but you have to live from them now. This is how the universe works. You know, whoever you are is what you will attract. It's not what you want to be. The more desperate you are, the more it will run away. This happens with relationships. The more you are desperate, the more that person goes away. Whereas when you love yourself, you have this validation from yourself, you value yourself, you respect yourself. You're not desperate for anything on the outside because you already have that. And naturally, that will attract everything you need. And you know, if you live from your end goal now, you will attract the things you need. If it's money you need, you'll attract it. If it's people you need, you'll attract it. Whatever you need, you will attract, but you have to be on that vibration. This is literally a law of the universe. It's as much as the law of gravity. You know, if I jumped off a building, I would go down. Like, there's no way I would go up. It's the same with this law. If you're on the same frequency and you keep on that frequency, you will attract it. It is literally a law. When I say this, do not mix this as to that you have to be positive all the time. That is not true, and this is where a lot of people go wrong with the manifestations. You know, if they're feeling anxious or if they're feeling sad, they try to push it away. I think, oh my god, no, I can't think like that. I'm not going to be on the same frequency. It's the worst thing you could do, because your emotions are here to serve you. Your emotions are telling you something. If you're scared, it's telling you that you don't believe you can do it. Now you need to unravel this belief. You know, you need to be grateful when you feel scared or when you have these feelings, because they're teaching you something amazing. And I ignored these feelings for so long. When I felt anxious and sad and unconfident, I ignored it. I pushed it to the side. And it wasn't until I literally hit rock bottom, you know, I had anorexia, I lost everything. That manifested on the outside, and I was like, oh my gosh. It wasn't until that moment that I really had to dig deep and find out what was going on here and why I was acting the way I was. For a while I thought, oh my god, the world is just horrendous. Like, what have I done to deserve this? Actually, I needed it. I needed it because I was ignoring my emotions. I wasn't listening to them. I was just pushing them aside and trying to find validation on the outside. It didn't work. When you do feel these emotions, feel grateful. Now you can work on them. You know, they're a good thing. Yes, obviously you don't want to feel these all the time. If you're starting from the bottom, you're going to feel these, and it's more about how you deal with this. When you are the exact person you want to be, are you never going to feel anxious or sad again? No. That's not reality, but you will deal with it so much better, and that's what you need to train yourself to do. Big example I use for this is jealousy. If you are feeling jealous of somebody, you're telling yourself that you don't think you can achieve that, or you don't think you can get that. You have to look at that belief and really unravel it and really change it around. You can't just sit there and beat yourself up and say, oh my god, I'm such a jealous person. No, you're not. You're not a jealous person. You're just feeling a jealous emotion. This emotion is telling you something, like it's there to serve you, and the more you ignore it, the more it will grow. So the main thing in all of this is keep the promises to yourself. Once you've raised these standards, once you know what beliefs you want, you know who you want to be, you have to keep the promises to yourself. You have to keep the promises. You're going to speak to yourself well. You're going to speak to yourself like you would if you were that person. You're going to treat yourself well. You're going to treat yourself like you would when you are that person. Keeping promises to yourself is the key to building confidence. It's the absolute key. Think about if you had someone in your life who kept saying to you, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to do this for you, and they just never did it. Like, imagine your view of them. You'd think literally, what a loser, like, get out of my life. This is what your brain thinks to you when you make these promises. You say you're going to do something, you don't do it. Your self-image goes down and down and down. The more you keep these promises and the more you do the things you say you will do, your self-esteem goes up and up and up. And you only have to do this for yourself. You're not doing it to prove to anyone else. You're doing it to prove to yourself. What you do for yourself is the most important thing you'll ever do. It is not selfish. It's the least selfish thing you will ever do. You'll soon realize that your whole world changes. You change the view of yourself, your whole world changes. You no longer have to chase. You literally attract. You're capable of this. If you don't think you're capable of this, it's just because you have a limited view of yourself right now. You were never born limited. You know, you are not a limited being. We are God's highest form of creation. We are creators and we can create our life. Guys, I had a visitor this whole time, but I really hope this helped you, and I promise I'm speaking from experience. I changed my life like this. That's how I know you can, and I'll keep every week sharing the things I know, because I'll do anything I can to help anyone that was in the situation I was in. I hope you go away from this video relieved. You know that everything you ever want is within you right now. Everything you need to become the person you want to be is within you right now. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week.